Hey guys, how you doing? Trevor Devall here of Me, Myself, and I. Wanted to share something interesting with you. This has nothing to do with solo role-playing at all, but it does have to do with using random determinators, using the various tools that I've used in the show to determine various things in a live game with real players. So, quick little background. I am currently running a in-person game of Twilight 2000, the new version by Free League, which I have to admit is a little odd right now, considering what's going on in the world, to be playing a post-apocalyptic European nuclear nightmare kind of survivalist game. You know, I tend to prefer my post-apocalypse to be fantasy rather than potential documentary. Nonetheless, we are playing it. It is a great game. If you like inventory and tracking every bullet and making sure you don't starve to death in the wilderness or get irradiated. It really is a lot of fun if you like that kind of thing. Survivalist game. Unapologetically, I love it. Great fun. But enough of that. What I wanted to talk to you about was my use last night of Une and Maze Rats to help flesh out NPCs, okay? So, very quick background without getting too bogged down in the details. Last session, the players, two of which are Polish soldiers, two of which are American soldiers, were defending a bombed-out factory against a Soviet tank column. They were with 8 NPCs, 4 of whom were Poles, civilians, and 4 of whom were for U.S. military. We didn't know anything about them. They barely got a chance to meet them before the attack came, so we didn't know their personalities. We didn't even know their names, with the exception of one who was sort of like the main guy they talked to. So we knew nothing about these people, but the battle happened, battle was finished, and that's where we ended the session. So coming back into the new session, I wanted to know who these people were, and I wanted to give each of these NPCs a real personality, a real motivation, a real sense of, realness to them. So here's my general philosophy on GMing, especially with sandbox stuff, okay? I believe that the role of a GM, especially in a sandbox kind of player-driven game, is to provide basically 2 things. One is opportunities for the players, and I don't necessarily mean hooks for adventure. I mean opportunities. Things that will tweak their interest and they will want to follow up on, maybe. The second thing is to provide them obstacles in their path so that they have something to fight against in order to achieve what they want. Otherwise, there's no game. No obstacle, no game. So, in order to create both opportunities and obstacles, I thought, let's start with the NPCs. Because this is a great thing to do in a sandbox, where you have a bunch of NPCs who all have motivations and desires, and maybe those motivations and desires are in concert with or in conflict with the player character's motivations and desires. Or maybe the NPCs have conflicting motivations among themselves, and the players can choose to get involved in that or not, depending on them. So, basically, I went back to a couple of old standbys, or one old standby and one kind of new thing. One is Une, the Universal NPC emulator, which I use all the time in my main show on Me, Myself, and I. The other thing is Maze Rats, which is a new product that is new to me, which is a bunch of fantastic random generators. It's designed for fantasy, but you can take your inspiration however you want it. And that's all this is using these tables to create inspiration for yourself to come up with these NPCs. So, before the session, I sat down with a piece of paper and I wrote out the first thing I did. I'll just bring this up here. So this is the list of my 4 Polish soldiers, or civilians, I should say, and 4 U.S. soldiers. The first thing I did was come up with names. So I don't speak Polish. I don't know how to read Polish. Nothing at all. So I just went to the internet and said, give me random Polish names, and I came up with these. Leo, Ryl, Dobrogost, Cislo. I'm probably horrifyingly butchering these names, so my apologies to you Polish speakers out there. Witold, Morcholek, Pavel, Orzel. Okay, started with names. Great, got names. I knew they were all men, by the way, so that was taken care of. So if we look here, Leo Ryl, 40. It says ugly guy stutters, but we'll come back to that. The first thing I did was I went to good old Une And I said, okay, let's look at our NPC creator. Let's do a modifier, an NPC modifier, and an NPC noun. And so for Leoril, I got despondent worker. So right away, that gave me an idea. Despondent worker, okay, well, he worked at the police factory, which is the factory that they were defending before the war. Great, okay, he's connected to this thing. Okay, what does he want? Well, I go to Une, and I look at Une, and I say, okay, let's go to motivations, verb and noun. And I did a little roll, and I got develop the church. So right away, my instinct told me, and again, everything about this is going with your first instinct, especially if you're doing it on the fly. Develop the church. He's trying to return religious artifacts back to Warsaw, hoping the archbishop is still alive to receive them. That's what he wants. He's a religious guy. He salvaged a religious relic or two from his local church, and he's trying to get it back to the archbishop. Great. So, right away, that is an opportunity for the players if they want to follow up on it. And what was really interesting about this was that this winds up being, totally by accident, being completely tied into something that happened with one of the characters in the previous episode, which I'll come back to that. Okay, so that's him. So then I go to Maze Rats, and I go, okay, well, let's just get some sense of his, his appearance. So what did I have for him? I had ugly guy and stutters. So for his appearances, I probably had hideous. I probably rolled hideous. And so, okay, he's really hideous. Great. And then stutters was here under mannerisms. And that is a great thing to be able to play for your NPC as a GM. Like, that is such a distinctive NPC right there. Really, really great fodder for portraying the different people as realistically as you can, because for me, I'm a voice actor, and this is how I GM, is I inhabit the NPCs. So for me, I don't want to have to say, Leo says this. I just say it in Leo's voice and mannerism. So hopefully, if I'm doing my job right away the players know exactly, that's Leo speaking. That's just me. That's my particular set of skills. Not everybody has those skills, and you certainly don't have to do that. There's a million ways of portraying NPCs. But that's how I do it. So that was Leo. Ugly guy, he stutters, he's a despondent worker, and he wants to develop the church. Great, there he is. I've got the guy right there. Boom. That is all I need to start playing this guy. Okay? Then we have Dobrogost Cislo. I look at Une, and I roll... what for him? I rolled Sensible Crook. Sensible Crook. That's an interesting combination. So right away, my instinct told me, okay, well, he's looking to steal ammo and supplies and escape in a vehicle somewhere. Great. Sensible Crook. And then I rolled Attempt Dreams as his motivation on Une. Attempt Dreams. Again, my instinct said, okay, Sensible Crook, he's trying to steal stuff. Bring him back to who? Bring him back to an old gang he's trying to get back in with. And if he can steal Leo's church artifacts, he will. So again, that's another potential opportunity I provided the players there if they interact with these NPCs. They don't have to, and they don't have to do anything. But I know that these NPCs all have an agenda, and they all have desires and motivations, and they are going to be working on achieving those motivations, providing the players don't interfere. And that really, when you do that, it breathes so much life into the world, and the players feel like it's an inhabited world with things happening. And a lot of the time it lights the fire under the players to kind of go, we need to be part of this because stuff's going on, man. Anyway, then we have this other guy, Witold Marshalek, who turned out to be, what do we have here? An insightful courtier. Well, a courtier, that's kind of hard to figure out in a modern day game, but I immediately went, okay, he's a diplomat. And he's insightful. He's an insightful diplomat. Therefore, he's a Polish diplomat who has vital operational info on one of the Soviet units that just beat the players. Great. Awesome. And then his motivation on Une was steal greed. And what that meant to me in the moment was he wants to get the intel to a NATO commander, hoping it can be useful, but he won't trust anyone else with it. Boom. Again, instant NPC. He's got an agenda. He wants something. He will probably ask the players for help, depending on the rapport that the players build with him, right? And then this guy, Pavel Ortzel, this was fascinating. Kind entertainer is what I rolled on Une. And that told me that he was a clown for kids' parties before the war. And then for his description, I rolled fat and jolly speech. That was just a note to myself for how to portray him, because he was really, really fat. So he, when he spoke, he sort of had this sort of jolly thing. Anyway, so right away, that gives you a sense of how to develop these characters using nothing but a few rolls on these couple of tables. And there's a million different tables you can use. These are just the ones that I use. So cool. What was really interesting about this is if we go down to the fourth dude here. This is the U.S. private. He's tall and slender. That was from Maze Rats. Touchy Reverend was what I rolled, which to me meant, on Une, which to me meant he's deeply religious and wants to help Leo return the relics to the church. So the NPCs now were working in concert together. Just like Dobrogast or Dobrogast was working against the NPC. He wanted to steal his stuff. So here's where it really, really, this is total serendipity. I rolled these guys totally at random, like a couple of hours before I did the session last night. And talk about an opportunity. Talk about a hook. So we've got two characters here who are deeply religious, and they're trying to return these artifacts to Warsaw. Well, last session, one of our players, I'm not going to get into all the details, but basically he pulled a crazy maneuver. He charged a Soviet tank with a pistol because he knew the Soviet tank was out of ammo, basically, but he was trying to get to the tank commander who was in the turret. Well, the tank commander levels a fully loaded AKM, an AK-47, at the guy, and we all thought, oh no, he's dead. Like, he can't survive a full-on barrage from an AKM. So I took the dice and all the ammo dice and everything, big handful of dice, and I rolled right there in front of the players so they could all see it. And not only did not one single bullet hit this guy, but the gun jammed uselessly, which gave our guy a chance to get up there and boom, blow the guy's head off and try and commandeer the tank. It was just so cool. But what was so wild about it was that because I've got these two NPCs now who saw this, and the Private Fordham, who was deeply religious, he was also there in the vicinity. He saw this. And so to him, he just witnessed a miracle. He just witnessed an act of God himself. Because how else do you explain that? How else do you explain that this man charged up and was unscathed by this situation? So he decided that this guy was sent, that this was the guy that he was praying for to lead him and Leo to Warsaw. So right away, the player now is confronted with this choice. What the hell? He wants me to... Now, what he does with it is totally up to him. I have no dog in that fight, race, whatever that term is. I have no particular interest one way or the other how the player deals with it. But I do have an interest in having the player have something to deal with. So these tables just organically created all of this fodder, right? And it took no time at all. It took me maybe 20 minutes to whip these 8 guys up. Boom, 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 boom. Nothing to it. And you can do it on the fly. Like that's the beauty about these tables. You can do this in game, right? The players meet some NPC at a trading post and you want to know what this person is. You pull out the Une, you just make a couple of rolls, boom, boom, this is what they are, this is what they want, pow. It gives you a starting point, a launching point. That's it. When I was younger, my friends always used to tell me that by far, one of my strongest aspects as a GM was my NPCs. And it's because I was doing this. I wasn't using Une at the time. I didn't know Une existed because it didn't. We're talking back in the 80s here. But it became a real strength of mine to try and create these NPCs that were distinct and, somewhat over the top sometimes, but memorable and believable, So I just wanted to share that story with you because it shows the creative power of these tools, which are available, of course, in my links below or on my website. There's links there too, me, myself, and die.com. Every link to all the supplements I use in my shows and the podcasts, the audio podcast versions of all the shows. Everything's there. It's all one central hub. So that's that. If you do want to check out Une or Maze Rats or any of the other supplements that I use on the channel, as I said, the links are down below. And if you do purchase them through DriveThruRPG, through those particular links, and that's a good way to help support the show and what I'm doing here. Or if you want to help us on Patreon, we're trying to double our viewership. And I've decided that if I do get double my viewers both on YouTube and on Patreon in the next little while, I'm going to provide some special stuff just for the patrons. I'm gonna provide a special video that's a real in-depth, behind-the-scenes making of Me, Myself, and Die. Not this video, but the main show. Because a lot of you have asked for it, and I thought, well, let's do it. Let's make that a little celebration if we can get to like 500 patrons, and I'll walk you through everything and show you how I solo roleplay. I'll show you all of the details, and it'll be a fun little documentary for me to make as well. So that's the deal. Thanks for watching. And check out Une and Maze Rats and any other supplements. And if you guys have your favorite supplements that you use for creating NPCs on the fly, let us know down in the comments below, because I've discovered so much about what's out there from you guys leaving comments. So I really appreciate that. Tell me what you guys use, because I'm always on the lookout for new stuff. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you later.